Of course, like every video I start, before I get going, this is for educational purposes only. I'm not telling you that you should smoke. I'm just giving you educational information that I feel is important. And yeah, so this is for educational purposes, YouTube. Please don't age restrict it. This is pretty important information. Anyways, let's get on with it. Howdy everybody and welcome back to the Schmucklebuds YouTube channel. I'm David and welcome back. And this time, this is the first non-strain review on the channel. Today I'm actually going to be talking about an important topic to me, and that's smoking with anxiety. It's something that I get a lot of questions about in my personal life, and I kind of just want to make a video because it's something I wish I had the access to before I started smoking. Just a little bit of background, I am diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. I'm almost pretty positive I have OCD and a bunch of other anxieties. So smoking at times can be a little bit tough for me, just because, you know, if you smoke too much, you get pretty fucking anxious. So I just want to give a nice little review for people that do have anxiety that either haven't smoked or have tried smoking in the past and just it didn't work for them and want to try again. These are some tips and tricks I have, and yeah, so without further ado, let's get into point number one. So the first tip I have is before you smoke, review the strain that you're about to smoke. Many newer smokers don't know the differences between a sativa strain and an indica strain, and even that's not really defined anymore because sativas and indicas are being crossbred so much that now you have hybrids, and it really just depends on the terpene profile of what you're going to get out of that bud and how it's going to make you feel. The general rule of thumb is a sativa is normally going to be your head high, so that's all mostly in your head. You're having your grandiose thoughts, you're more creative, you're more euphoric. And indica is more of your body high, so you're going to feel it in your cannabinoid receptors more in your body. Personally, I recommend an indica if you're anxious because you're able to clearly think and you're not freaking out as much and you're not having as much paranoid thoughts because it's more of a body high and not much in your head. If you're a completely new smoker, there's really not a difference when you first start out, in my opinion. But I would smoke an indica for your first time, unless, and this is a huge unless you don't like feeling your body more. If you're wigged out by your body, I would actually smoke a sativa because you're not going to feel it in your body as much. That's personal preference and that's up to the person, and only you can really decide what's good for you. Now, terpenes also play a pretty big part in the strain as well, especially now. If you're in a legal state, a lot of legal states have been starting to put the terpene profile on the label of the strain. Some do it, some don't. It's up to you. Leafly is a good resource to look up the terpenes. Different terpenes will affect your high, so look up what those terpenes are known for and go with that. But yeah, personally, I would try to go with an actual, like a dominant indica hybrid is probably the best way to go if you're a first time smoker or if you're anxious and you just want to get back to it. And this paired with my next point is actually going to be pretty important. So let's get into point number two. So point number two is pretty simple, and you've probably heard it before, and that's small is so much better than large. If you're a new smoker, you have no tolerance, and it's not like alcohol. If you have a high alcohol tolerance, that does not mean you're going to have a high THC tolerance. They are two completely different compounds, all right? It affects everybody differently. I see so many people that have never smoked for the first time either smoke a whole joint, take a 100 milligram edible, or just do something fucking stupid, and they don't like it. And that's because they took too much, they greened out, and then either they had a panic attack, and then they wake up feeling disassociated and derealized. You don't want to end up like that. That is the one thing that causes anxiety the most. Well, smoking is having too much of it. Weed is really odd. Weed is really anti-anxiety in small amounts and very anxiety prone to people in high doses. Keep a small amount until you build up a tolerance. This, and building a tolerance can take up to a month. So just be aware of your tolerance and don't overstep your boundaries. It's like drinking. You don't want to drink till you're blackout the first time, all right? Just take it slow and steady, and that's how you're going to have a really fun time. So that leads us on to our next point, all right, and that's remembering that you are high. One thing that a lot of people do when they smoke is they're not ready for almost the psychedelic headspace that you'll get in. A lot of people will smoke and they like freak out because the perspective that you're looking through changes a little bit. Just be ready for that. This is gonna sound more like a preparing for like a psychedelic trip, but I think the same principles are really good. Any drug you do, honestly, make sure you're in a good set and setting. All right, and that will help your weed high a lot. Weird thoughts are normal. You're gonna have weird, grandiose thoughts, stupid stuff like how a computer works. Even though sober, you're like, oh man, a computer just does that. Like, it's silicon and all that. You're gonna be like, wow, that's amazing when you're high, and that's normal. That's weed keeps firing neurons and it doesn't know when to stop. That's the leading theory on why you have grandiose thoughts. It's all just chemistry, and just go with it. Just write it out. Don't fight it, because if you fight it, that's when you're going to have an anxiety attack. Just try to enjoy what you're feeling. Too many people that I've smoked with will smoke, and then even me, when I first started smoking, I try to fight the feeling of being high. I didn't enjoy it because I didn't succumb to it. You've gotta smoke the weed. You can't let the weed start smoking you, and the weed starts smoking you when you start fighting it. So if you just don't fight it and you just go along with it, that's gonna help you so much. So many people get into anxiety attacks because they just can't. They can't let go of their ego almost. I mean, that sounds like a very psychedelic, like you're taking a psychedelic. That's a really psychedelic mindset. But yeah, if you just don't, if you try to take too much control of yourself, mm-mm. So that leads me to I think the third point, and that's smoking with a friend. This is more towards newer smokers because most smokers that have smoked a long time that have anxiety kind of know how to deal smoking by themselves. But if you're newer, do not smoke by yourself the first time you smoke. Smoke with somebody. It's so much fun just to talk to somebody else, even if they're not high. It's just fun to talk to, and that keeps your mind, like I said earlier, that keeps your mind off the thought that what you're feeling, and you're able to write it out and get more of those euphoric thoughts. And I mean, that leads me right into the next point. So that actually leads me on to the next point, which is always smoke with a purpose. Never just smoke because you're bored, especially with anxiety. That's when the anxious thoughts will come out, and things that you didn't even think were a problem will start to arise. So if you have a purpose and you have something that you're actively doing while you're smoking, that makes it so much more fun because you get mostly just the euphoric effects from it, and you're not really thinking that you're high, you're not getting in your head, and you're just one track. It's like, think about this. Think about you're in a river, and this is a good meditation tactic. You're just water in a stream, right? And you got to go along. Your body of water needs to go along with that stream. If you try to fight it, that's when you have problems. And being able to smoke with a purpose is so important for that. Um, it's really just keeping occupied. I recommend video games are an awesome tactic because your body's working, your mind's working, and that's like the best. Video gaming while high is awesome. Movies are awesome too. You get really invested into it. Your suspension of belief gets held hard when you're high, so that's always fun to do. And then finally, honestly, I like cleaning when I'm high. It's a chore. You feel good after you're done doing it, and it's fun high, dude. You can put on some music, and yeah, music is an awesome one. Going to concerts are fun high, but I wouldn't recommend going out in public if you're a newer smoker. So yeah. And this is the last main point I really want to talk about, and it's actually really important, and that's if you find yourself in a panic attack. Everybody that has smoked has been there. It's not something I want to cover up because everybody has smoked themselves into at least a tiny panic attack. And these are honestly just examples that you can use if you're having a panic attack while sober, but they work just as well when you're high. Control your breathing. A lot of people will get really scared when they're that high because they feel like they're dying and they can't breathe. And if you do breathing exercises, even just counting to 10 every time you inhale and exhale, that'll help you so much. That'll control your body and you'll start to feel calm. Emotions feel a little bit different when you're high, especially if you're not accustomed to it. And what you're feeling is just anxiety manifesting in a new way. You're not dying. Nobody has overdosed on weed. You can, but it's so much so that you would be passed out like 10 times before you get to that point. All right, it's not gonna happen to you. Just know that you're not dying and that everything's fine, and just breathe. Understand the feeling will pass. You're just high. A really good example I actually got from Reddit, funny enough, is someone would write something when they were sober and then they would go back to it when they're high and it would comfort them. Something like that. Call somebody, like just talk to somebody. I mean, that helps too. Just anything you can do to kind of ground yourself. The biggest thing with weed panic attacks I've found is that it disassociates and derealizes you pretty hard. So much so that I think I'm going to do another video on that, because I've dealt with it a lot, and I've been able to overcome it multiple times now, I think. So yeah, that's the biggest thing that comes with that, and learning that it's normal and that everybody has kind of gone through it and that you're okay, you're safe, you just need to calm down is very important. And then finally, just try to have fun. That's the whole thesis of this whole video, is just try to have fun. Smoking is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be a fun time with friends. Don't be and if it doesn't work for you even after all this, don't be afraid to admit that it may not be for you. Weed affects everybody differently. How I experience it is not how my next door neighbor experiences it, and it's not how you're gonna experience it. There's similarities, but everybody's experience is different, and if it's not fun, don't do it. All right? Don't be afraid to tell your friends, "Hey man, I'm just allergic to weed. Like, it just does not work for me. I'll have a panic attack." Most stoners will understand that because they've watched it happen to other people. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed today's video. It was a little bit different of a video. I think it turned out okay though. It's more of informative. If you want more videos like this, tell me down in the comment section below. Don't be afraid to subscribe and stuff like that. Like I said, I want to make more of these videos because I feel like advice around it now that it's become, or education around it now that it's becoming a little bit more and more legal, is really important. Because at the end of the day, it's still a drug, and you still gotta treat it like a drug. You're still putting your body in a different, not realm, because that sounds out there, but you're putting your body in a different perspective or a different setting. You're changing your chemistry, and you need to be aware of that. And these are just some tips that make it a little bit easier. This is stuff I wish they taught people in DARE instead of, you smoke one joint and it's psychosis. Which I do want to, before this video ends, I do want to clear that up. If you are suffering from a psychotic issue like psychotic depression or even bipolar or schizophrenia, do not smoke. Weed does not cause psychosis. However, if you're already predisposed to psychotic symptoms, it's only going to make them worse. So if you are psychotic, don't smoke. It's not for you. However, if you're just anxious and you know it's just anxiety, these are the tips you can follow, and I hope you enjoyed, and yeah, look out for more of these. Have good highs, everybody.